They laughed at Elijah Brooks before he ever spoke a word. Not because he was wrong, not because he lacked skill, but because he was a black man standing in the wrong room, wearing the wrong uniform, carrying trash bags instead of a title. In that glass tower in Austin, Texas, power smelled like expensive perfume and polished shoes, and Elijah smelled like engine oil. The looks they gave him weren't loud. They were worse, dismissive, certain, the kind that says you don't belong here without ever opening a mouth. His heart pounded, not from fear, but from something heavier. Years of swallowed anger, quiet humiliation, and being invisible just to survive. One wrong move could cost him his job. One brave word could cost him everything. And yet when they mocked him, when they turned his dignity into a joke, something inside Elijah snapped. Stay with this story, because before the engine is fixed, someone's entire world is about to collapse, and the truth will leave this room forever changed. The first thing Elijah Brooks noticed wasn't the broken engine. It was the way the room went quiet the moment he stepped inside. 20 executives sat around the long glass conference table on the 42nd floor of the Apex Innovation Tower in Austin, Texas. They were dressed in tailored suits, polished shoes, and effortless confidence. The kind of people who spoke in numbers and expected the world to move when they did. Elijah stood near the doorway, holding 2 trash bags in his hands. The faint smell of motor oil clung to his uniform, no matter how many times he washed it. He had learned that some smells never came off, especially the ones people used to judge you. Madeline Cross didn't look at him right away. She was too busy pacing beside the table, red heels clicking sharply against the marble floor, her jaw tight with controlled rage. On the table sat the engine, chrome, steel, wires, and silence. A $2 million prototype, the heart of Apex Drive Systems' future. It had failed again. For 6 weeks, Madeline snapped, slamming her palm onto the table. This engine has embarrassed us in front of investors, analysts, and now Frankfurt. 6 weeks and not one of you has a solution. Daniel Whitmore, the lead engineer, MIT, class of 2019, stared down at his laptop, dark circles under his eyes. His entire team had slept in the building more than once. None of it mattered. Madeline turned sharply and finally noticed Elijah. Her eyes moved from his boots to his uniform, then to his face. She wrinkled her nose slightly. "Why is he still here?" she asked, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Didn't I say no cleaning during executive meetings?" Elijah didn't respond. He never did. He had learned early on that silence kept you employed. Someone mumbled that the meeting ran long. Madeline sighed dramatically and waved him closer with 2 fingers, like calling a stray dog. "Come here," she said. Elijah obeyed, each step heavier than the last. Every eye followed him. He felt it, the weight of being seen only when you were in the way. "You work maintenance, right?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," Elijah replied calmly. She laughed once, short and sharp. "Maintenance, of course." She gestured toward the engine. "Do you have any idea what this is worth?" Elijah glanced at the machine. He had been studying its blueprints late at night while mopping the floors, memorizing every detail. He knew exactly what it was worth, but he didn't say that. "No, ma'am." Madeline smiled, satisfied. "Good, because I'd hate for you to think your opinion matters here." A few people shifted uncomfortably. No one spoke. Madeline stepped closer to Elijah, too close. "God," she muttered, "you smell like grease. Can we open a window?" Laughter rippled weakly through the room. Elijah felt his jaw tighten, but his face stayed neutral. He thought of his mother, Ruth Brooks, sitting in a plastic chair at the oncology clinic back in Flint, Michigan, pretending not to be afraid. He thought of the bills stacked on his kitchen table. He needed this job. Madeline turned back to the room. "We have Thomas Reinhardt and his team flying in from Frankfurt tomorrow morning. They are prepared to invest over 100 million euros, if this engine works." She paused, then smiled slowly. "And since none of you geniuses can fix it," she said, "maybe we should let him try." The room froze. "Elijah," she continued, pointing at him, "here's a deal." He looked up. "Fix this engine," she said loudly, "the one that MIT and Stanford couldn't fix. And I'll marry you, right here, in this room." A few people gasped. Others stared at their hands. Madeline tilted her head. But when you fail, and you will, security will escort you out. Permanently. She snapped her fingers. Two guards near the door straightened. Elijah felt something shift inside him. Not anger, not fear, recognition. This wasn't about the engine. This was about reminding everyone who belonged and who didn't. "Ma'am," Elijah said carefully, "I wasn't asking to." "Then don't," Madeline cut him off. "Go back to your trash." She turned away as if he no longer existed. The meeting continued, but Elijah didn't hear it. His eyes drifted back to the engine. He listened. Even silent, it was loud to him. After the meeting ended, the executives filed out. Madeline left without another glance. Elijah remained behind, emptying trash cans no one had noticed were full. That night, long after the lights dimmed and the building quieted, Elijah returned to the conference room with his mop. The engine sat alone under the overhead lights. He stood beside it and closed his eyes. The vibration was wrong, not broken, conflicted, like two rhythms fighting for control. He remembered his grandfather, Henry Brooks Sr., in their small garage in Flint. "Engines don't lie, Eli," he used to say. "People do. Machines just tell the truth in a language most folks don't bother learning." Elijah opened his eyes. This engine was speaking, and no one was listening. The next morning, the auditorium was packed. Employees whispered. Phones were out. Cameras were rolling. Madeline stood on stage, confident, polished, in control. "Elijah Brooks," she said into the microphone, "thinks he has an opinion." She smiled thinly. "Go ahead," she said. "Show us what maintenance can do." Elijah walked forward slowly. This was no longer about a job. This was about dignity, and the real test was just beginning. Have you ever stayed silent at work just to survive discrimination? Yes or no, if this story feels real to you, stay with it. Because what happens next will force everyone in that room and everyone watching to confront the truth they've been avoiding. The room felt smaller once Elijah Brooks stepped onto the stage. Not physically. There was still plenty of space between the rows of seats and the wide screen behind him. But emotionally, every breath seemed louder. Every movement felt watched. The kind of silence that wasn't calm, but hungry. Madeline Cross stood off to the side, arms crossed, lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It was the smile of someone confident the outcome was already decided. Thomas Reinhardt sat in the front row with his European delegation, posture straight, expression unreadable. Dr. Laura Bennett stood near the engine itself, hands clasped behind her back, observing quietly. Unlike the others, she wasn't looking at Elijah like he was a spectacle. She was studying him like a variable. Madeline tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said smoothly, "what you're about to witness is transparency. We believe in giving everyone a chance, even when common sense tells us better." A ripple of nervous laughter moved through the crowd. Elijah felt it, the implication, the unspoken message. "This isn't your place." He stepped closer to the engine. The massive machine reflected the overhead lights, pristine and intimidating. This was the same engine that had failed 67 diagnostic tests, the same engine that had burned through weeks of money and reputation. Madeline glanced at her watch. "You have 2 hours," she said. "Try not to embarrass yourself." Elijah didn't respond. Instead, he placed both hands flat against the engine and closed his eyes. Someone in the audience scoffed. Madeline laughed softly. "Is he praying?" Elijah ignored her. He wasn't praying. He was listening. The low vibration traveled through his palms. Not violent, not chaotic, misaligned. Like two voices singing the same song in different keys. "Interesting," Dr. Bennett murmured under her breath. Daniel Whitmore frowned. "This is ridiculous," he whispered to a colleague. "We ran full-spectrum diagnostics." Elijah opened his eyes. "May I start it?" he asked calmly. Madeline rolled her eyes. "If it makes you feel important," Dr. Bennett nodded. "Proceed." The engine roared to life. The sound filled the auditorium. Deep, powerful, impressive. On the surface, it sounded perfect. The monitors lit up with data streams. Temperature rising steadily. Pressure building. "See?" Madeline said. "It always does this. Give it time." Elijah watched the numbers. counted silently. At exactly 14 minutes, the vibration changed. "There," he said quietly. Daniel scoffed again. "Nothing's—" The engine stuttered. Heat spiked. Alarms screamed. Smoke curled into the air. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Madeline threw her hands up. "And there it is!" What a shock! But Elijah didn't step back. Instead, he stepped closer. "The engine isn't broken," he said, raising his voice just enough to be heard. "It's confused." That earned laughter, this time louder. Madeline smiled wide. "Confused, of course, because engines have feelings now." Elijah turned to Thomas Reinhardt. "Sir," he said respectfully, "this engine was manufactured in Frankfurt using metric tolerances." Thomas's eyes narrowed slightly. "Correct. But the AI calibration was done here in the States," Elijah continued, "using imperial assumptions." A pause. Dr. Bennett straightened. Daniel Whitmore stiffened. That conversion was verified. "Elijah," Madeline cut in sharply, "this isn't story time. We don't need—" "The measurements match on paper," Elijah said, louder now. "But not in motion." He gestured toward the oscillation graph on the monitor. "That spike? That's harmonic conflict. The AI is trying to compensate for a mechanical difference that doesn't exist." Dr. Bennett stepped closer. "Explain." Elijah took a breath. "For the engine, German tolerances are tighter, cleaner, more precise. But the AI was trained to expect American variants, so it keeps correcting something that's already perfect." The room went quiet. Daniel stared at the data, his face drained of color. "That would mean," he whispered, trailing off, "that the engine overheats because it's being forced out of rhythm," Elijah finished. "It's fighting itself." Madeline laughed again, but this time it sounded strained. "And your solution?" she asked. "Let me guess. Magic?" Elijah walked to a storage cabinet and pulled out a small metal disc. "A harmonic dampener," he said. $50 part." The laughter stopped. Madeline's smile cracked. "You're saying this entire disaster is because of a $50 mistake?" "I'm saying brilliance can fail when arrogance refuses to listen," Elijah replied. The room went still. That wasn't part of the script. Dr. Bennett nodded slowly. "Install it." Madeline opened her mouth to protest, but Thomas Reinhardt raised a hand. "Let him," he said calmly. "We are already watching history unfold." Elijah worked quickly, confidently. His hands didn't shake. Years of garages, late nights, and silent learning guided him. He tightened the final bolt and stepped back. "Ready," he said. Dr. Bennett nodded. "Start it." The engine roared again. 1 minute passed. 5, 10, 14. Nothing failed. The vibration smoothed out. The numbers stabilized. The temperature leveled. The dreaded shutdown never came. A murmur spread through the crowd. Daniel sank into his seat. The engine hit full efficiency. Higher than projected. Cleaner than expected. Dr. Bennett stared at the screen. This is extraordinary." Thomas Reinhardt stood. "This," he said, "is engineering." Applause erupted. Not polite, not controlled. Real. Madeline didn't clap. She stood frozen, face pale, eyes locked on the engine, like it had betrayed her. "This wasn't luck," Elijah said quietly, looking out at the audience. "It was always talking. You just didn't think someone like me was worth listening to." The words landed hard. Phones buzzed, messages spread, the live stream exploded. Madeline finally spoke. "Turn it off," she snapped. Dr. Bennett didn't look at her. "No!" The power had shifted, not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. Elijah stepped away from the engine. This wasn't the end. It was the reckoning, and everyone in the room knew it. The applause didn't fade right away. It rolled through the auditorium in waves, first uncertain, then stronger, until it became impossible to ignore. People were standing now, some clapping out of relief, some out of awe, some because they suddenly realized they had just witnessed something rare, truth breaking through power. Elijah Brooks stood near the engine, hands resting loosely at his sides. His heart was still racing, but his face remained calm. He had learned long ago that when you are a black man in rooms like this, composure was armor. Lose it, and they would use it against you. Madeline Cross did not move. Her phone was still in her hand, the live stream still running. Thousands of comments were pouring in faster than anyone could read them. Praise for Elijah, shock, anger, and more than a few questions aimed directly at her leadership. She cleared her throat sharply. "That's enough," she said. "This demonstration is over." No one listened. Dr. Laura Bennett stepped forward, her voice steady but unmistakably firm. "No, Madeline, this is exactly the moment that matters." She turned to Thomas Reinhardt and his delegation. "You came here to evaluate technology. What you just saw was more than that. It was a failure of judgment and a revelation of talent." Thomas nodded slowly. "In Europe, we say that systems reveal character under pressure. Today, we learned a great deal about both." Madeline's jaw tightened. "With all due respect, this is my company." Dr. Bennett met her gaze. "Leadership isn't ownership, it's responsibility." The room went silent again. But this time, the silence felt different. It wasn't heavy with humiliation. It was heavy with accountability. Daniel Whitmore stood up from his seat, hesitated, then walked toward Elijah. "I owe you an apology," he said, voice tight but sincere. "Not just for doubting you, for never asking." Elijah looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Apology accepted," Daniel swallowed. Would you be willing to work with us? Lead diagnostics?" Before Elijah could answer, Thomas Reinhardt spoke. "My firm is prepared to move forward with the investment," he said, "with one condition." Madeline's head snapped toward him. "Condition?" Thomas didn't look at her. "Elijah Brooks will lead the European Engine Integration Program." Gasps echoed through the room. "That's not," Madeline began. "It is non-negotiable," Thomas said calmly. "Innovation does not survive arrogance. We invest in people who listen." Dr. Bennett added quietly, "And I will personally oversee the transition." Madeline's face drained of color. The board members exchanged glances. Phones buzzed. One of them stood. "Madeline," he said carefully, "given the circumstances, the board will be initiating an internal review of management practices, effective immediately." The words were formal, polite, devastating. Madeline said nothing. For the first time since Elijah had met her, she looked small, not because she was being punished, but because her power no longer protected her from the truth. The meeting ended shortly after. People approached Elijah in ones and twos, engineers, interns, employees who had never spoken to him before. "I saw how she treated you," one woman whispered. "I'm sorry." "You gave me courage," another man said quietly. Elijah listened, thanked them, but his mind was already somewhere else. 2 days later, he stood in a small oncology clinic in Flint, Michigan. His mother, Ruth Brooks, sat beside him, her hand resting in his. She was tired, thin, but smiling. "You fixed it, didn't you?" she asked softly. He smiled back. "Yeah, Mom, I did." She squeezed his hand. "Your granddad would have known." "I know," Elijah said. A week later, Apex Drive Systems announced new leadership changes. Madeline Cross was reassigned to a non-executive advisory role. Mandatory bias and accountability training followed, not as punishment, but as consequence. Elijah moved to Austin full-time. His title was now Senior Engineering Lead. His salary more than tripled, but what mattered more was this. His voice was no longer questioned before it was heard. In the lobby of the Apex Innovation Tower, a small plaque appeared near the engineering wing. "Excellence has no job title." Elijah didn't ask for it, but he noticed it every morning. Months later, at a public launch event in Frankfurt, Elijah stood on stage beside Thomas Reinhardt and Dr. Bennett. The engine hummed behind them, smooth, balanced, alive. A reporter raised her hand. "Mr. Brooks, what do you think is the lesson from all of this?" Elijah thought for a moment. "That talent doesn't announce itself," he said. "It waits to be respected." The applause that followed felt different from the first one. It felt earned. That night, Elijah called his mother. Then he visited his grandfather's old garage. Now quiet, dust settling on familiar tools. He placed a hand on the workbench. "Still listening," he whispered. The world didn't change overnight, but one room did. One system did. And for a lot of people watching, something shifted inside them too. Because sometimes justice doesn't arrive loudly. Sometimes it hums, steady, undeniable, and finally in tune. Now it's your turn. How did this story make you feel? Hopeful, angry, inspired, or all three? Do you think stories like this reflect real-life discrimination in workplaces today? Yes or no? Did this ending feel fair and human to you? Yes or no? If you enjoyed this story, comment 111 below. Tell us which country you're watching from. And if this story moved you, please share the video. Because stories like this only matter if they're heard,